The stars looked different this far from Earth. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the New Horizon, watching the strange blue light of distant suns through the main window. His ship had been traveling for 6 months now, the first human vessel to leave their solar system and explore the galaxy beyond. Jake was a simple man from Texas who had spent most of his life flying planes for the military. When Earth's government picked him to lead this mission, he felt honored but nervous. Now, millions of miles from home, he felt something else entirely. He felt free. "Captain, we're getting something on the radio," said Ryan Bell from his station. Ryan was barely 25, a smart kid from California who could make any machine talk to any other machine. His fingers moved quickly over the controls as strange sounds filled the bridge. "What kind of something?" Jake asked, walking over to look at Ryan's screen. "It's a distress call, sir, but it's not in any human language. The computer is trying to translate it now." Ryan frowned at his equipment. "Sir, this is weird. The signal is coming from a system that our maps say is empty. No planets, no life, nothing." Lisa Park looked up from her weapons console. She was a tough woman from New York who had joined the military because she liked things that went boom. "Maybe our maps are wrong," she said with a grin. "Wouldn't be the first time." Tony Rodriguez laughed from the engine room over the radio. Tony was from Chicago and could fix anything with moving parts. "Hey, Captain, if there's someone out there who needs help, we should help them. That's what humans do, right?" Jake nodded. Tony was right. It was what humans did. "Ryan, can you clean up that signal?" "Working on it, sir." Ryan's screen showed waves of sound and light. Slowly, words began to form. "Got it. The computer says it's from something called the Zephyr's Dream. They're crashed and need help." "Set course for that system," Jake ordered. "Let's go see what's out there." The ship turned toward the distant signal. As they got closer, Kate Sullivan came up from the medical bay. Kate was a doctor from Colorado who had joined the mission because she wanted to see what kind of life might exist among the stars. She was also the bravest person Jake had ever met. "I heard we found someone," she said, checking the readings on the main screen. "Are they hurt?" "We don't know yet," Jake replied, "but we'll find out soon." It took them 2 days to reach the system. What they found made everyone stop and stare. The space around them was filled with the wreckage of hundreds of ships, broken. Metal and strange materials floated everywhere like a graveyard in space. "My God," whispered Lisa. "What happened here?" Ryan's equipment was going crazy with signals. "Captain, I'm picking up dozens of different radio channels. Most of them are warnings. They're all saying the same thing in different languages. Stay away. Danger. Death zone." "Death zone?" Kate asked. "What kind of death zone?" The answer came from the planet below them. It was a world covered in storms and strange lights. The surface looked like it was on fire in some places and frozen, solid in others. Even from space, they could see explosions going off constantly across the continents. "There," Ryan pointed at his screen. "The distress signal is coming from the surface. Grid reference 77 Alpha." Jake studied the planet through the ship's cameras. It looked like hell itself. "Can we land there safely?" Tony's voice came over the radio from the engine room. "The ship can handle it, Captain, but I wouldn't call it safe. The atmosphere readings are all over the place. Acid storms, radiation, gravity that changes every few miles. It's like someone built a planet specifically to kill anyone who visits." "All the more reason to help whoever's down there," Jake said. "Prepare a landing shuttle." "Sir," Ryan said quietly, "I've been listening to those radio signals. I think I know what this place is. The different aliens call it different names, but they all translate to the same thing. The place where warriors go to die, the testing ground of the gods, the world that eats armies." Lisa checked her weapons one more time. "Sounds like fun." "Fun?" Kate stared at her. "Lisa, this place has apparently killed entire armies." "Yeah, but they weren't human armies," Lisa replied with a smile that made Jake both proud and worried. As they prepared the shuttle, more pieces of the puzzle came together. Ryan had managed to decode some of the alien communications. 3 different species had been fighting a war on this planet for over 200 years. None of them could win, but none of them could leave either. The planet had become a trap that caught everyone who landed on it. The species are called the Zerathi, the Vaktar, and the Luminari, Ryan explained as they loaded supplies into the shuttle. They've been killing each other down there for generations. The whole galaxy treats this system like a quarantine zone. No one goes in, no one comes out. Except us, Jake said. We're going in. Tony joined them in the shuttle bay, carrying a bag full of tools and spare parts. I've been thinking, Captain, if this place is so dangerous that alien armies can't handle it, what makes us think we can? Jake looked at his crew. Ryan, young and smart, ready to talk to anyone in the universe. Lisa, tough and fearless, treating every challenge like a game, to be won. Tony, practical and clever, able to make anything work. Kate, caring and brave, determined to help anyone who needed it. Because we're not an army, Jake said finally. We're just 5 people who don't know when to quit. The shuttle launched from the New Horizon and began its descent toward the planet's surface. As they entered the atmosphere, the ship began to shake and roll. Outside the windows, they could see the storms Kate had worried about. Lightning that wasn't quite lightning shot between clouds that weren't quite clouds. The air itself seemed to glow with dangerous energy. Well, this is new, Tony said, fighting to keep the shuttle steady. Everything's new out here, Jake replied. That's why we came. The surface rushed up to meet them. They could see the wreckage of the ship called Zephyr's Dream now, broken and smoking on a plain of black rock. Around it, the landscape was scarred, with craters and strange formations that looked almost alive. Landing in 30 seconds, Tony announced. Remember, Jake said to his crew, we're here to help. Whatever we find down there, whoever we meet, they're not our enemies. They're just people who need assistance. Even if they've been trying to kill each other for 200 years? Kate asked. Especially then, Jake replied. The shuttle touched down on the alien world with a soft thud. Through the windows they could see the crashed ship and the hostile landscape beyond. Somewhere out there, 3 alien species were locked in an endless war on a planet that seemed designed to kill anyone who set foot on it. Jake Morrison, a pilot from Texas, looked at his small crew and smiled. Well, team, he said, let's go make some new friends. The door of the shuttle opened with a hiss and Jake Morrison stepped onto the surface of the most dangerous planet in the galaxy. The air tasted like metal and electricity. Strange purple clouds moved overhead, and the ground beneath his feet felt warm despite the cold wind. Atmospheric readings are all over the place, Kate said, checking her scanner. The air is breathable, but barely. Lots of weird chemicals floating around. Smells like my uncle's garage after he's been welding all day, Tony said with a laugh. He stepped out of the shuttle and stretched his arms. Not so bad. Lisa was already moving toward the crashed alien ship, her weapon ready but not aimed at anything. Look at this place, she said, grinning as she looked around. It's like someone built the world's most dangerous obstacle course. The landscape around them was unlike anything they had ever seen. Black rocks jutted up from the ground like broken teeth. Streams of glowing liquid ran between them, too bright to look at directly. In the distance, explosions lit up the sky in regular patterns, like fireworks at a festival. Those explosions, Ryan said, adjusting his communication equipment. They're not random, there's a pattern to them, almost like they're timed. Automated defense systems, Jake guessed. Probably left over from the war. As if summoned by his words, the ground began to shake. A section of black rock 20 feet away split open, and something rose up from underneath. It looked like a metal flower, but instead of petals, it had gun barrels. All of them pointed directly at the humans. Well, that's not friendly, Tony observed. The alien weapon system hummed with power, charging up to fire. Most people would have run or taken cover. Lisa Park was not most people. Oh, this is going to be fun, she said, and started running directly toward the gun. Lisa, what are you doing? Kate shouted. Playing tag, Lisa called back. The weapon fired, sending bright beams of energy where Lisa had been standing. But she wasn't there anymore. She had rolled to the side, come up running, and was now zigzagging toward the gun like she was playing a game. She's treating it like laser tag, Ryan said in amazement. Because that's exactly what it is, Lisa replied over the radio. She reached the weapon and started climbing up its side. Just really dangerous laser tag. The gun tried to turn to follow her, but it couldn't bend far enough. Lisa reached the top and found what she was looking for, a control panel with alien writing on it. "Tony, I need you to see this," she called. Tony jogged over, dodging the gun's attempts to shoot him. "You know, back home, people pay good money to play games like this at those paintball places." "Exactly what I was thinking," Lisa said. Tony looked at the control panel and started pressing buttons. He couldn't read the alien writing, but he understood machines. After a few seconds, the gun stopped trying to kill them and folded back into the ground. "Nice work," Jake said. "Now let's go check on those survivors." The crashed ship was bigger than their shuttle, but not by much. It was made of some kind of silver metal that seemed to shift colors in the strange light of the planet. One side was torn open and they could see movement inside. "Hello?" Kate called out as they approached. "We're here to help," a voice answered from inside the ship, speaking in a language none of them understood. Ryan quickly set up his translation equipment. "They're asking who we are," he said after a moment. "And they want to know if we're crazy." "Tell them we're humans from Earth," Jake said. "And probably, yes, we're a little crazy." Ryan spoke into his communicator. The alien voice responded immediately, sounding excited and worried at the same time. "They say their name is Captain Zek of the Altarian Confederacy," Ryan translated. "They've been trapped here for 3 days since their ship crashed. They can't believe we landed here voluntarily. Ask them how badly they're hurt," Kate said, opening her medical kit. As Ryan translated, a figure appeared in the torn opening of the ship. It was humanoid, but taller than any human, with blue-gray skin and 4 arms. Its large eyes looked terrified as it stared at the human standing casually in what it considered a death trap. "You came here to help us?" the alien asked through Ryan's translator. "This is Sector 7. This is where armies come to die. Why are you not afraid?" "Afraid of what?" Lisa asked. She was sitting on a rock, cleaning her weapon like she was at a picnic. "Of everything." Captain Zek gestured at the hostile landscape around them. The death storms, the hunter machines, the gravity traps, the acid rain, the war clans that shoot anything that moves. As if the alien had summoned it by speaking, the sky began to darken. Clouds that looked like they were made of green fire rolled overhead. "Acid rain," Captain Zek said, pointing up. "We must take shelter immediately or it will burn through our skin." "How acid are we talking?" Tony asked, genuinely curious. Kate checked her scanner. "Pretty acid, like really nasty stuff." The first drops began to fall. Where they hit the ground, they sizzled and left small holes in the rock. "Everyone under the shuttle," Jake ordered. But Tony was looking up at the falling rain with interest. "You know, this reminds me of that camping trip I took in Oregon last year. Same kind of weather, just more dangerous." "You're comparing acid rain to a camping trip?" Captain Zek stared at him in disbelief. "Weather's weather," Tony shrugged. "Sometimes it rains water, sometimes it rains acid. You just deal with it." They all crowded under the shuttle to wait out the storm. Captain Zek told them about the 3 species that had been fighting on this planet for centuries. The crystal-based Zerathi controlled the northern continent. The insect-like Vaktar held the south. The energy beings called Luminari claimed the eastern islands. None of them could defeat the others, and none of them could leave. "The planet itself fights us," Captain Zek explained. "Every time we think we understand its dangers, it creates new ones. Our armies have become trapped here, fighting each other and fighting the world itself." "Sounds like you need a new approach," Jake said. "What approach could possibly work?" "We have tried everything. Direct assault, stealth missions, underground tunnels, orbital bombardment. Nothing works." Lisa looked out at the acid rain and smiled. "Maybe you've been thinking about it wrong." "What do you mean?" "You keep calling this a war zone," Lisa said. "But look at it from our perspective. You've got automated targets that pop up for shooting practice. You've got obstacles courses built right into the landscape. You've got weather that changes every few hours to keep things interesting. This isn't a war zone." "Then what is it?" Captain Zek asked. "It's the galaxy's most extreme adventure park," Lisa replied. The acid rain stopped as suddenly as it had, started, steam rose from the ground where the drops had fallen. In the distance, they could hear the sounds of battle, explosions and weapon fire from the warring factions. "Listen to that," Tony said, pointing toward the sounds. "They're having a party and they don't even know it." Captain Zek looked at the humans like they had lost their minds. "That is the sound of soldiers dying." "No," Jake said, standing up and dusting off his clothes. "That's the sound of people who forgot how to have fun." Ryan was monitoring the radio channels again. "Captain, I'm picking up communications from all three factions. They're asking each other about the ship that landed. They want to know who we are." "Tell them we're the new players," Lisa said with a grin. "And we're here to show them how the game is really played." As they prepared to rescue Captain Zek's crew and explore more of the planet, Jake looked around at the dangerous landscape with new eyes. Where others saw death traps, he saw challenges. Where others saw obstacles, he saw opportunities. "Come on, team," he said. "Let's go turn this war zone into a playground." Word traveled fast across the galaxy about the humans who had landed on Sector 7. Within a week, news ships from dozens of different species gathered at the edge of the quarantine zone. Their cameras and sensors pointed at the planet below. None of them dared get closer, but they all wanted to see what the crazy Deathwish species would do next. Jake Morrison was completely unaware of his newfound galactic fame. He was too busy having the time of his life. After rescuing Captain Zek and the other Altarian survivors, the human team had decided to explore more of the planet. What they found amazed them even more than the first day. "This place is incredible," Lisa said as she slid down a cliff face made of smooth crystal. The cliff was over 100 feet tall and angled at 45 degrees. Most people would have needed ropes and safety gear. Lisa was using it like a water slide. It's like someone built the ultimate adventure course and then forgot to charge admission. At the bottom of the cliff, Tony was examining a strange machine that looked like it was half buried in the ground. "Hey Jake, come look at this thing. I think it's some kind of gravity manipulator." Jake walked over, careful to avoid the patches of ground that glowed with warning colors. The humans had quickly learned to read the planet's signals. Glowing ground meant danger. Pulsing rocks meant unstable. Singing crystals meant run away very fast. "What does it do?" Jake asked. "Watch this," Tony said. He pressed a series of buttons on the machine and suddenly Jake felt himself becoming lighter. His feet barely touched the ground and when he jumped, he soared 20 feet into the air. "Low gravity field," Tony explained with a huge grin. "The warring factions probably use these things to move their troops around quickly. But you know what I'm thinking? That this would make an awesome basketball court," Jake guessed. "Exactly." While Tony played with the gravity machine, Kate was a few hundred yards away, talking to a group of Zarathi soldiers. The Zarathi were tall beings made of living crystal, and they had been fighting on this planet for longer than humans had been building civilizations. They were also completely confused by the human doctor who was asking them about their favorite hobbies. "War is not a hobby," the Zarathi commander said through Ryan's translator. His name was something that sounded like breaking glass, so Kate just called him Chris. "War is survival. War is purpose." "But what do you do for fun?" Kate asked. "When you're not fighting, what makes you happy?" Chris stared at her with eyes that looked like diamonds. "We do not understand this concept of fun. We fight. We rest. We fight again. This is existence." "That sounds boring," Kate said honestly. "No wonder you've been stuck here for 200 years. You forgot how to enjoy yourselves." Meanwhile, Lisa had made contact with a Vaktar patrol. The Vaktar looked like giant insects with armor plating and 6 arms each. Their leader, who Lisa had nicknamed Bug because his real name involved clicking sounds, was equally puzzled by human behavior. "You landed on Sector 7 for entertainment?" Bug asked. "This is not possible. Sector 7 is death. Sector 7 is pain. Sector 7 is a challenge," Lisa corrected. "And humans love challenges. Watch this." She pointed to a series of explosions going off in a regular pattern about a mile away. The explosions were caused by underground mines that had been planted by one of the factions decades ago. Any soldier who tried to cross that field would be blown to pieces. "Your people have been trying to get across that minefield for how long?" Lisa asked. 47 years. Bug replied sadly. Many warriors have died trying. I bet I can get across it in under 10 minutes, Lisa said. Impossible. You will die. Maybe. But if I don't die, will you listen to what I have to say about ending this war? Bug considered this. Among the Vaktar, impossible challenges were considered sacred tests. If this strange human wanted to attempt the sacred test of the exploding ground, he had to allow it. If you survive, we will listen, Bug agreed. Lisa studied the minefield for a few minutes, watching the pattern of explosions. Then she started running. But instead of trying to avoid the mines, she used them to help her. She timed her jumps, so that each explosion launched her forward like a rocket. When she reached the other side, she wasn't even breathing hard. The Vaktar patrol stared in silence. Finally, Bug spoke. How? He asked. You were thinking of the mines as obstacles, Lisa explained. I thought of them as stepping stones. Sometimes the thing that's trying to stop you can help you instead if you look at it right. Back at their base camp, Ryan was monitoring communications from all three factions. The alien soldiers were talking about the humans constantly now. Some were curious, some were angry, and some were just confused. Captain, Ryan said to Jake, I think we're starting to change how they think about this place. Listen to this. He played a recording of a conversation between Zerathi and Luminari soldiers. The Luminari were beings made of pure energy who could barely interact with physical matter. They had been the most isolated of the three factions, but now they were asking questions. The humans treat the gravity wells like games, one Luminari was saying. They surf the energy storms. They race through the obstacle fields. Perhaps we have been approaching this world incorrectly. What do you suggest? The Zerathi replied. Perhaps we should ask them to teach us their methods. Jake smiled when he heard this. Ryan, can you set up a meeting? All three factions, neutral ground. I can try, sir. But where's neutral ground on a planet where everyone's been shooting at everyone for 2 centuries? Jake looked around at the landscape that had seemed so hostile just a week ago. Now he saw it differently. The dangerous terrain, the unpredictable weather, the automated weapon systems, they weren't obstacles. They were opportunities. Tell them to meet us at the Crystal Cliffs, Jake said. We're going to have the galaxy's first peace talks at an extreme sports arena. 2 days later, representatives from all three factions gathered at the Crystal Cliffs. They came prepared for battle, expecting a trap. What they found instead was Tony Rodriguez setting up what looked like a carnival game. Welcome to the first annual Sector 7 Olympics, Tony announced cheerfully. Today's events include cliff sliding, gravity jumping, minefield racing, and storm surfing. Winners get bragging rights and a chance to help design tomorrow's games. The alien representatives stared at the humans in confusion. You wish us to compete in games? Asked the Luminary representative, a being of golden light named Spark. We wish you to have fun, Kate replied. When was the last time any of you actually enjoyed yourselves? Chris, the Zerathi commander, tilted his crystal head. We do not understand the purpose of these games. The purpose is to remember that you're alive, Jake said. You've all been so focused on fighting that you forgot why life is worth living in the first place. Lisa had set up the first event, a race through a section of the minefield she had crossed earlier. But instead of trying to avoid the explosions, the goal was to use them creatively to reach the finish line. Who wants to go first? She asked. Bug stepped forward. As a Vaktar warrior, he couldn't resist a challenge. I will attempt this trial. He began running through the minefield, but instead of copying Lisa's technique, he used his 6 arms to grab onto the metal fragments thrown up by each explosion, swinging from piece to piece like a monkey in trees made of shrapnel. When he reached the other side, both humans and aliens cheered. Bug stood there for a moment, looking confused. I feel strange, he said. What kind of strange? Kate asked. Light. Happy. I wish to do it again. Spark the Luminary floated forward. I too would like to attempt this challenge. As the games continued, something remarkable happened. The three factions stopped thinking of each other as enemies and started thinking of each other as competitors in a game. They began sharing techniques, cheering for good performances, and laughing when someone failed in a particularly spectacular way. By the end of the day, the representatives were sitting together, planning bigger and better games for tomorrow. "This is impossible," Captain Zek said to Jake as they watched former enemies working together to design an obstacle course. 200 years of war ended in a single day? Not ended, Jake corrected. Redirected. They still have the same competitive spirit, the same drive to be the best. They're just channeling it into something more fun than killing each other. As the alien sun set over Sector 7, the sounds that filled the air were different than they had been for centuries. Instead of weapons fire and screams of battle, there was laughter and friendly arguments about the rules for tomorrow's games. The galaxy's most feared war zone was becoming something new. 6 months after the first human ship landed on Sector 7, the planet looked completely different. Where once there had been smoking craters and broken weapons, now there were carefully designed challenge courses and adventure tracks. The sound of explosions still filled the air, but now they were controlled detonations that launched competitors across obstacle courses rather than random blasts meant to kill. Jake Morrison stood on a viewing platform built into the crystal cliffs, watching the morning's events. Below him, a team of Vaktar soldiers were racing against a group of Zarathi warriors through what had once been the most dangerous minefield on the planet. Both teams were laughing as they used the explosions to propel themselves forward, turning a deadly trap into an exciting game. "Hard to believe this is the same place," said Captain Zek, standing beside Jake. The Altarian had become something like a tour guide for the stream of visitors who came to see the transformed world. "My government wants to open a diplomatic mission here. They're calling it the Miracle of Sector 7. "It's not a miracle," Jake replied with a smile. "It's just people remembering how to have fun." On the far side of the viewing platform, Kate Sullivan was giving a tour to a group of young aliens from different species across the galaxy. They had come to study at what was now being called the Interspecies Cooperation Academy. "The secret," Kate was explaining to her eager students, "is that competition doesn't have to mean destruction. These 3 species spent 200 years trying to destroy each other because they forgot they could challenge each other in other ways." One of the students, a young Zarathi whose crystal body glowed bright blue with excitement, raised a hand. "But how did you know it would work?" "We didn't," Kate said honestly. "We just knew that what they were doing wasn't working. Sometimes you have to try something completely different, even if it seems crazy." Down on the planet's surface, Lisa Park was leading what had become known as the Daily Death Race. It was a competition where teams from all 3 species worked together to navigate the most dangerous parts of the planet in the fastest time possible. Today's course included acid rain fields, gravity anomalies, and a section where automated weapons tried to shoot the racers. "Remember," Lisa called out to the mixed teams of aliens, "the weapons aren't trying to kill you anymore. Tony, reprogram them to shoot paintballs. If you get hit, you just get colorful. So stop being scared and start having fun." A luminari being named Bright, who was made of silver energy, floated alongside a Vaktar warrior called Claw. 6 months ago, their species had considered each other mortal enemies. Now they were arguing about the best strategy for getting through the paintball gauntlet. "We should move fast and dodge," Bright suggested. "No, we should move slow and use cover." Claw disagreed. "Why don't you try both?" Lisa suggested with a grin. "Split up, try different approaches, and see who gets through cleaner. Make it interesting." The 2 aliens looked at each other and suddenly understood. This wasn't about finding the one right answer. It was about trying new things and seeing what worked best. Meanwhile, Tony Rodriguez had set up shop in what used to be a weapons factory. Now it was a modification center where alien engineers came to learn how to turn instruments of war into tools of entertainment. He was currently working with a Zarathi crystal shaper named Clear on a new project. "So instead of making the turrets shoot deadly beams," Tony explained, "we program them to shoot different colored lights. Then people can run through the light show and try to touch as many colors as possible without getting tagged by the same color twice." Clear's crystal body sparkled with understanding. "A game of skill and speed, but no one dies." "Exactly. And the best part is we can make it harder or easier just by changing the programming. Beginners get slow, easy patterns. Experts get crazy light shows that would make a disco ball jealous. Back on the viewing platform, Ryan Bell was coordinating communications between the planet and the growing number of news crews and diplomatic missions that wanted to visit. His translation equipment had been upgraded to handle over 300 different alien languages, and he spent most of his time explaining human concepts to confused aliens. "No, sir," he was saying to a military commander from the Regelian Empire. "We don't charge admission to the planet. Anyone can come and participate. The only rule is no weapons that can actually kill people." "But how do you make profit?" the commander asked. "We don't," Ryan replied. "The point isn't to make money. The point is to help people get along better." The commander stared at him like he had grown a second head. "Your species does this for no profit. This is highly unusual." "Maybe," Ryan said with a shrug, "but it works." As the day continued, Jake found himself in a meeting with representatives from the Galactic Council. The council was the closest thing. The galaxy had to a government, and they were very interested in what had happened on Sector 7. The council representative was a tall, thin alien with gray skin and 6 eyes. Her name was something that sounded like wind chimes, so Jake just called her Melody. "Captain Morrison," Melody said, "the council wishes to understand how your species accomplished what no one else has managed in 2 centuries of trying." "We didn't accomplish anything special," Jake replied. "We just looked at the situation differently." "Differently how?" Jake thought about how to explain it. "Everyone else saw a problem that needed to be solved. We saw an opportunity to have some fun. When you change how you look at something, you change what you can do with it." "The council wishes to implement this human protocol in other conflict zones," Melody continued. "Would your species be willing to assist?" "We'd be happy to help," Jake said. "But you have to understand we can't just show up and fix everything. Each situation is different. The important thing is to help people remember that there are other ways to compete besides trying to kill each other." That evening, as the alien sun set over Sector 7, Jake and his crew gathered together for their daily meal. They sat on the terrace of what had once been a military bunker and was now a restaurant run by former soldiers from all 3 factions. "So," Jake said, looking around at his team, "any regrets about leaving Earth?" Lisa laughed as she watched a group of young aliens playing what looked like zero-gravity tag in the distance. "Are you kidding? This is the best job I've ever had. Where else do you get to turn an entire planet into an amusement park?" "I still can't believe it worked," Kate said. "When we first landed here, I thought we were all going to die in the first hour." "We almost did," Tony pointed out. "Remember that first automated turret? If Lisa hadn't been crazy enough to run straight at it, we might still be hiding in the shuttle." "I wasn't crazy," Lisa protested. "I was having fun." Ryan looked up from his communication equipment. "Speaking of fun, I just got a message from Earth. They want to know when we're coming home." The team looked at each other. Home seemed very far away now, and not just in terms of distance. "What did you tell them?" Jake asked. "I told them we'd think about it," Ryan replied. "But honestly, I don't think our work here is done yet." Jake nodded. He looked out over the transformed landscape of Sector 7, watching aliens from dozens of different species working and playing together. News crews were broadcasting the daily events to billions of viewers across the galaxy. Diplomatic missions were setting up permanent offices. Young people from every corner of known space were coming to learn about cooperation and peaceful competition. "You know what the best part is?" Jake said finally. "What's that?" Kate asked. 6 months ago, this was the most feared place in the galaxy. Now it's becoming the most popular vacation destination, and all we did was show people how to have fun." As in, if to prove his point, a group of luminary energy beings floated past, racing each other through an obstacle course made of crystalline structures and gravity fields. They were laughing, or doing whatever energy beings did instead of laughing, as they competed to see who could complete the course with the most style points. Above them, the first stars of the alien night began to appear. Among those stars were the homeworlds of dozens of species who had spent centuries fighting each other over resources, territory, and old grudges. But now, for the first time in galactic history, Some of those conflicts were being resolved not with weapons and warfare, but with games and friendly competition. Jake Morrison, a simple pilot from Texas, had helped transform the galaxy's most dangerous war zone into its most popular playground. And the best part was, this was just the beginning. "Come on, team," he said, standing up and looking out at the alien landscape that had become their new home. "Tomorrow we're starting construction on the galaxy's first interspecies racing league. We've got work to do." As they walked back into their base, the sounds of Sector 7 filled the night air around them. But these weren't the sounds of battle and death that had echoed across the planet for 2 centuries. These were the sounds of laughter, friendly competition, and people from across the galaxy learning to play together. The galaxy's most feared war zone had become its greatest playground, and the universe would never be the same.